Hello everyone, this is the next video clip on writing VBA program to find the average of a list of numbers. In this video I'll be talking about how we can get the numbers now interactively from the user as opposed to having them on a spreadsheet. So this is example 2.5 on page 43 of the textbook. Alright, so now here's the script. The script is on Blackboard as well. It's example 2.5. Now in this case, as you see, there is no number in the spreadsheet. We imagine that we want to enter the numbers interactively, like we ask the user enter the number, the first number, the second number, the third number, all the way until the user wants to calculate the average, that had maybe another key like 0 or something else, and then the computer actually calculates the average. So we want to use a message box as opposed to the spreadsheet. That means we ask the user to enter the number through a message box popping up on the screen, and then through that message box we get the numbers. Okay, so the script pretty much goes as before. We have the option explicit to explicitly define the variables. If we have any array, the index of that should start from 1. This is our subroutine from sub to end sub, and don't forget to make sure and don't forget to put the exit sub before end sub to make sure that the code exit properly. We declare the variables. We have variable to save the numbers. This is not an array. Note that there is no parentheses in front of it, so this is just a normal variable. That's not an array. We have number of numbers, sum as double and average as double. Okay, so we activate the sheet. We set the sum to 0, total number of numbers 0 initially, and now let me comment this out. So all of these are command lines. Now we're going to read the number from the screen asking the user to enter. So the command here that we're going to learn is InputBox. And then within the parentheses we write a sentence for the user to know what has to be done. Okay, so I have a variable here, input number, and I'm taking this variable from the user through the keyboard that the user uses actually to enter the number. So you're going to see what I'm saying when I run the code. So I'm getting this number from the user through the screen, not through the spreadsheet anymore. Okay, so we ask the user to enter the number, and if the user enters 0, that means the list is finished and we have to calculate the average. If the user doesn't enter 0, that means the user wants to enter more numbers that we have to get through the list or through the message box. Okay, so as soon as we get the first number, we're going to calculate the sum in this while loop. We're going to increase the number of numbers, and then we ask the user to enter the next number. So this is another input box command. This is VBA command. We get the next number and we check if the number of numbers if the number of numbers is not 0, then we get the next number from the user. And if the user enters 0, which means the input number is 0, then we're going to break the loop, and then the rest would be similar as before. We calculate the average by dividing the sum by the number of numbers, and then we have to print the result. But now we're going to print the result on the screen again. We don't want to print it in the spreadsheet. So to print the result on the screen, the command is MsgBox. So this is a command in VBA, and then within double quotes we write the words that we want to show exactly on the screen, and then the variable we want to print the result or the value of. Okay, so here's the text. I want to print it out within double quotes, and then ampersand, and then the variable that we want to print out the value of, and then another word that I want to exactly print on the screen, which is the sum equals to, and then the value of the sum. Okay, so the words within the double quotes printed exactly. So they're printed exactly, and then the variables without double quotes will have their value printed on the screen. Okay, And if the number is 0, then the message box would be, printing something on a screen for the user that no input numbers to average. Okay, so again, because this is within the double quotes, it will be printed exactly. There's no variable to print. Okay, that is it. So let me run the code and you'll see what I mean by input box and message box. Okay, so I'm going to go here and then run. You see that the box is shown here. So this is the outcome of the input box command here. Input box shows up a box like this with a blank area for the user to enter a number. And the line that you see here is the result of what we put between the double quotes. Right? Enter number 0 to n, and that shows up exactly here. So I'm going to put a number here, let's say 10, and then hit enter or OK. Either would be fine, so I'm going to hit OK. Then another message box shows up. That's exactly the result of this line, because now input number, the first one I put, is bigger than 0, goes to this loop, and then it checks again, that number is not 0, so it asks for the user to enter the next number. So that is the result of this line. It's the same input box, same sentence, which shows up here. So I'm going to put, let's say, 20 this time, and hit enter. Then it goes back with the same window and asks for the next number. So it keeps asking until we put 0. So far I put two numbers, 10 and 20, right? Now if I put 0 and hit enter, then this box will not show up again, and it's going to go and calculate the average. So I'm going to hit OK because that is 0. The while loop breaks, and it never asks for enter number again. So I'm going to hit enter. There you go. It calculated the average. Now this is a different box. This is called message box. Is different from the input box. So message box prints out the result on the screen, and you see there's a message box here. It says average equal to. That is exactly the outcome of this line. It says average equals, and then the value of the average, which is 15. Yeah, 10 plus 20 is 30. Divided by 2 is 15. That's right. And then the value of the sum. So you see that comma sum equals to, and then here's sum comma sum equals to, and then the value of the sum, which is 30. Yeah, that's right. 10 plus 20 is 30. So I get the value of the average and the sum both on a screen in the message box. And if you hit OK, the program stops. There we go. Now let's try another case where we put 0 in the first place. I'm going to run the code. And then here, instead of putting a number, I just put 0. Let's see what happens. So that is no number to average. And you get a message box says no input numbers to average. So this message box is the outcome of this line where because there was no number, so the numbers was 0, this if statement was not executed. The else part of it actually was executed, and the else part says, I'll put a message box out, and then within the message box write this sentence, no input numbers to average, and that's exactly right here. Okay, so I hope this helps you to use message box and input box to get numbers and to print out numbers on a screen without using the spreadsheet. Thanks all for watching, and stay tuned for the next video on VBA programming for chapter 2 of the textbook.